So, it's been a few days since our last upload, and if you're wondering where I've been, well, every once in a while I like to quote-unquote unplug from the matrix. And basically for me, that is getting rid of all social media influence, no matter what it be or where it comes from, whether it's Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, no matter what. I like to try to take a step back, look at the market overall, fundamentals of AMC, the company itself, the CEO, the box office, all those things that factor in without any influence. And that can be hard to do from time to time. Now, I have openly admitted that I probably have a bias towards the positive when it comes to AMC. When I take these steps back, I give them the benefit of the doubt most of the time because I'm still a shareholder. But if there's one thing that's for sure, a constant that remains every time I take these steps back, is the repetitive failure of the so-called regulators and overseers of the market itself. We just saw last week with the collapse of FTX crypto and what's going on behind the scenes. And say what you will about Mark CAHODES, but he happened to be talking about this over a month ago, calling it out, saying it was a scam. And when I took this little break, it came up on Tucker. And here is the clip. Watch.
All of them, from the news media, paid off by Sam Bankman-Fried, to the leadership of the Democratic Party, also paid off by Sam Bankman-Fried, to the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC commissioner himself, Gary Gensler. They all knew that FTX was not a real company and that Sam Bankman-Fried was a fraud. And if they didn't know that, they certainly should have known that, because it was very obvious to anyone who bothered to pay attention. One of the few who did pay attention was a short seller called Mark CAHODES, who took one look at Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF for short, and recognized here is a con artist, obviously. Watch this tape, which aired on Hedge Eye TV, a small investment advice channel, back in October.
When anyone tries to pin SBF down on where he made his money, you can't get a cogent answer. Then you take into account that SBF is bailing out known Ponzi's and frauds in the crypto space. Everyone who's gone bankrupt or is a proven fraud. But nothing here fits. Everything reads like this thing is a complete scam. And I think this thing is dirty and rotten to the core.
Now, maybe it's just me, but it seems as though our regulators, the House Finance Committee, the SEC, Gary Gensler, somebody should have seen this coming. If Mark CAHODES a month ago was picking up on it, and let's not forget, this guy has been out on many interviews and has not looked good. How is it this was able to continue so long? And let me just be clear about this. This is a bipartisan issue that we have here. I want to make that very clear. I know a lot of people think that I attack the Democrats all the time, but this falls on both camps because no one stepped in. And now they're going to try to use this against crypto, and we'll talk about why at the end. But I want to get into a couple other things tonight. I want to touch on DRS real quick, the numbers from Wakanda Forever, and what's going on with Disney and the replacement of Iger. Hopefully we'll have time for all of that, and you guys can still make it to Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow. All right, but before we do any of that and get way too far ahead of ourselves,
cue the speeder.
This is the way.
And other investors who put money into FTX didn't adequately, diligence. What's the fundamental problem?
Well, I think the fundamental
Or was
issue.
it just fraud?
So first of all, that's a really big choice of words to use, and I can't go there at this point in time. What we do know is the balance sheet shows a giant black hole. And there's no doubt that customer assets were used to make investment decisions in favor of FTX's shareholders, which didn't work, at the expense of the customers. That's not permitted in American broker-dealers. You can't just use your customer assets to go engage in proprietary trading. That's a huge no-no.
It's a no-no in most parts of the world.
It's in most parts of the world, and that's a good no-no, to be clear, too. All right, so FTX, billions of dollars have been lost here. The confidence, though, of a generation in financial markets has also been shaken. That's really awful because the 20-some-year-olds to 40-year-olds who are so engaged in crypto. Now, with FTX, there are a few points here that we should talk about. The turf war by American regulators has got to end. It's just preposterous that, without naming the agencies, they all dance around who owns what, and the bottom line is American investors have really gotten hurt here, to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars in decline in market cap in crypto over the last 2 years. I mean, that really strikes at the entire core or essence of what's investor protection all about. The second is that FTX crosses into a zone that all of us are worried about. On the balance sheet of FTX is a line called Trump lose. And Sam was the second biggest donor to Democratic candidates.
I'm going to leave it to everybody else to draw their own conclusions about what you're saying here.
Right? Those are really, really ugly facts when you see a fraud of this magnitude having played out, and you find no regulators were there to prevent it. That's a really, really tough story.
I do find it quite amusing every time someone is getting in trouble that the CEO of Citadel, Ken Griffen, is out in the forefront warning the American people, letting them know that they're being let down by their overseers or the Oversight Commission. Meanwhile, Ken Griffen, at the same time that this guy's talking about Trump losing, he's making checkboxes for DeSantis to win. So again, this isn't something that is just strictly for Democratic candidates or for Democrats themselves. This is something that falls on both sides of the aisle, screwing over the people. When you see Wall Street making the biggest donations to the two parties, you have to wonder who is really running the show. Is it the politicians or the money behind them? And I just think that until we get the money out of politics, we're going to continue to see these systematic failures that we have seen over the past year and a half, whether it be shutting off the buy button for GameStop or just last week when billions of dollars were lost because of a House of Cards crypto scam that, as we now know, ended up funneling hundreds of millions of dollars to the DNC.
Бажаю здоров'я. 85 ракетних ударів випущено по Україні, по наших містах, в більшості своїй по енергетичній інфраструктурі. Зрозуміло, чого хоче ворог. Він свого не доб'ється. Ще попереду може бути біля 20 ударів. Тож дуже прошу вас всіх, бережіть себе і будьте в укриттях. Деякий час знаю, що удари відключили нашу енергетику. В багатьох містах нашої держави ми працюємо, все відновимо, все переживемо. Слава Україні! Ви молодці!
Okay, so we got to move on and talk about Disney and AMC. Now, I know there's a speculation out there flying around about Disney possibly purchasing AMC. Now, just a week and a half ago, CEO Bob Chapek sent out a memo to the company saying there were going to be cost cuts coming, layoffs, and there was going to be a hiring freeze. And this was just after they had gone to their 52-week low. In the article here, it says Disney streaming services lost $1.47 billion last quarter, more than double the units lost from a year prior. McCarthy said losses will improve in 2023, and Chapek has promised streaming will become profitable by the end of 2024. So we are looking at least a year and a half before Disney is able to start capitalizing on their streaming service, which I'm just wondering if that is their plan. Why aren't they talking about we need to be pumping out, you know, MCU movies and Star Wars movies and getting things back in the theaters where we can make a ton of money? Unfortunately for Bob Chapek, it was found out this weekend that his head was actually on the chopping block. He is now gone as CEO of Disney, and Bob Iger has returned. And Iger's first step actually was removing Chapek's right-hand man, who was Kareem Daniel. Now, Kareem Daniel was involved with a lot of the big purchases that Disney's made in the last 10 to 15 years. They bought Marvel back in 2009 for $4 billion and Lucasfilm in 2012 for $4 billion. Now, up until 2019, we know that they had tremendous success, this is Disney, with the MCU, running all the way up to Avengers Endgame. And Phase 4 has been kind of a letdown of a disappointment. Everything that's come out on streaming has flopped pretty much. If we just look back to the last MCU release, Black Panther, which opened 2 weeks ago, it did do awesome. It hit a major another box office milestone by crossing the 500 million mark this weekend, but it dropped 50% in its second weekend. And we've seen that happen with Thor, Love and Thunder, and Doctor Strange, The Multiverse of Madness. And that's not something you typically see with the MCU. So that's a little disappointing and concerning when it comes to them possibly picking up AMC. The other problem I have is, as far as movies go for Star Wars and that IPO, there is officially nothing in the pipeline right now, even being worked on supposedly. So I just don't see the correlation between the two right now. I think they're heading in two different directions. But according to this Deadline article, AMC CEO Aron extols return of Bob Iger to Disney. It says in this article from Deadline, based on box office grosses, Disney is the biggest filmmaker of any movie studio. Bob Iger coming back to again lead Disney as its CEO is a big deal. Let me shout this from the mountaintop. I have the absolute highest respect for Bob Iger. So, you know, if you are a big fan of Bob Iger, I think these changes that were coming to Disney that Chapek took on were already in the works. I don't see much of a change coming with Iger. I'm not as positive as Aron is, but that doesn't mean that things aren't going to change. Who knows what can happen? Maybe Bob Iger will buy in finally to the get woke, go broke scenario, philosophy, whatever you want to call it. And he will turn the ship around, and who knows, maybe he's in the plans right now to buy AMC. All right, guys, so we're going to cut it here for tonight. It is about 5 minutes to midnight, which means it's about 5 minutes till Thanksgiving. I just want to say thank you to all of you who are still here watching the video at this time right now. I hope you guys have a great holiday tomorrow, a great Thanksgiving. Get your mind off the market and spend some time with your family and just enjoy life for the day. As always, guys, thank you for all the likes, the views, the comments, my new subscribers, my OGs. I appreciate each and every one of you. We are here to break the wheel. This is Ape Nation. I'm the Massalorian, and I'm out.